Well, good morning, world. And well, if it's not morning for you, perhaps you're watching the replay or you're somewhere else in the world. But where we are, it's morning. So good morning to you. I am very lucky today to be joined by an amazing coach who is also one of my favorite people on the planet, Jules Wyman. Hi, Jules.
Hi, Johnny. How are you doing?
I'm really good. And I really appreciate you coming forward. I was just saying to you before we came live, that when I reached out for a coach to come and talk with me today, I had no idea I was going to get someone as amazing as you. So I'm delighted.
You're such a sweet talker.
I do my best. So look, we're going to be talking about something very important today, something we've been having a lot of chats with clients ourselves about, which is one of the reasons Jules came forward and one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, which is about getting your niche sorted. So that's what we're talking about today. Stay with us for today's Daily Present. See you back after the titles. Okay, if you have questions around niching and getting your niche sorted, put them into the chat box. We will do our best to get to them, but we're not going to be having the super long conversation today. But Jules, we're both coaches. So I mean, primarily we're talking about niching within the coaching industry, but this could apply to other people as well. But what are your thoughts around niching and what are the problems that you tend to encounter or work with people on?
So I think the biggest challenge that people have around niching is that they see it as if I focus only in one thing, and I think it does go across the board. What came into my head then was about restaurants, because obviously I'm obsessed with food. But restaurants, there is a big difference between going to a restaurant that specializes, that niches in fish, for example, or is a vegetarian or vegan restaurant, versus one that, when you open one of those menus that just keeps going and going and going and going. And I think that what a lot of people, and I don't know if you see this as well, Johnny, but from my experience, when people talk about niching, they see it as, yeah, but I'm only focusing here and therefore I'm excluding this big mass over there. And I think that it's the fear of I'm going to be missing out. I'm going to miss out on, if I only look in this pond, then I'm going to miss out on the bigger pond. And I just think that's completely not true.
Yeah. So I was having a conversation yesterday, and it's not an uncommon conversation for me to have with anybody. But this is with someone who is a course creator, creating online courses and programs, and may well watch this video, and was asking me about why there was no sales, why it was a struggle. And the first thing I had to ask him was, what is the problem you're solving in terms of sales, and who are you solving it for? And it was really just like, well, helping people to get more sales, and really for anyone, for coaches, for engineers. Okay, and so here's where we have a problem. And like, if your message is like for everybody, it's ultimately for nobody. And there are a sea of people out there, some of them expertly good at what they do and perhaps don't need to niche so much because they're well known. But if you're not well known for what you're doing or for what you're offering, you need to have a message that cuts through the noise of everyone else out there and speaks to a certain group of people who you can help, right?
And help them to find you. So that I specialize as a confidence coach, and in all honesty, I was telling one of my friends, and she's known me for more than 10 years, and she didn't know this story, but she happened to say something, and we were talking about niching, and she's in a different field, but she was talking about her problems around niching. And she said, it's all right for you because you've got it sorted. And she said, but how did you niche into confidence? And it was kind of purely by accident at the start, really. But it was because that noise that you're talking about. I was at a networking event, and it wasn't literally, but it was like going around the room and, hi, I'm an accountant. Hi, I'm a lawyer. Hi, I'm a life coach. Hi, I'm an accountant. Hi, I'm a lawyer. I'm a business coach. Hi, I'm an accountant. I'm a lawyer. And it literally was going around, not literally. It was like it was going around that. There was hardly anybody different standing out. And there were so many coaches in the room, but they were all either business coaches or life coaches. So by the time it had gone all the way around the room and got to me, I heard myself say outside, hi, my name's Jules Wyman. I'm a confidence coach. And there was a part of me that kind of went, who said that? Because I hadn't pre-thought it. It just slipped out. But interestingly enough, I had more people come and be curious about that than the life coaches did, because, and I'm not disparaging life coaches, I originally trained as a life coach, but it can be so generalized that it doesn't help people. It's the whole thing of, if you look at a box of chocolates, I'm not going to go into Forrest Gump quoting land, but if you look at a box of chocolates, they don't have, a box of chocolates has, let's say it has 40 chocolates in it, but it doesn't have 40 individual chocolates. There's doubles and triples of the same flavor, because they want to narrow it down to make it easy for your choices. And we need to do that regardless of what industry we're in and who we're marketing to, because that helps the person who's got the problem find us. And it doesn't mean that we're then excluding anybody else. So I worked with a lady this week who, it was her husband who recommended her to me. And she said, yeah, but I'm fine with my confidence. I don't have a problem with confidence. It's to do with what next, really. And I said, well, let's have an initial chat and see if I'm the right person for you. And by the end of our conversation, she was like, I'm so pleased I reached out to just at least start that conversation, because you really don't know where it's going to go. And it's interesting. Years and years ago, I was on a business course, and I remember them telling us a story about a lady who, now whether it's true or whether it's one of these made up parables, I don't know. But a lady who, she could speak about 7 different languages. So she marketed herself as being able to speak all these different languages and this and this and this. And her business was okay, but wasn't really bringing in that much money. So in the end, she was like, right, I'm just going to put my native language, which I think was Russian, and English, and I'm just going to push that. That's what I'm going to do. And then she started getting phone calls. Do you speak German? Do you speak French? Do you speak Spanish? And she was like, but when I put it out there for that, it was too noisy. But actually, weirdly, when you narrow it down, it helps people find you in a different way. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it oddly does, and I think that is, I think you've nailed one of the big fears that people have in terms of actually niching their service or product, is that it's going to cut off a whole option of clients that you can work with, and it doesn't actually do that. It does actually say, like for example, so I work in. Now I've moved my niche, which has moved many times over the years, but I've moved my niche into focusing particularly on presentation skills. I'm calling myself a presentation specialist because it's an area that I love working in, and I teach tools of influence and persuasion. Now, I'm not the only person out there doing it in that way, and I'm marketing my services primarily to coaches and consultants. Does that mean that someone who is maybe an engineer or an executive can't still come to me and say, hey, look, I like the look of what you're doing. Can I work with you? Absolutely, they can. And I might be able to help them if it's a good fit. But if I just try and work with everybody, no one's really going to pay attention to me. So I have to
it's
speak
the same
and
thing
target.
if you're marketing it towards speakers and coaches, but it may be that somebody who's a car mechanic happens to come across your stuff and has got a best man speech to write, and so they may come and reach out to you. And I think that's the thing, is that I think it's fear that stops people, that fear of missing out, that stops people from niching.
FOMO, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that it is this, but if I only market to that people, just before we hit live, I was telling you about a client this week who, she was told by 2 colleagues, don't niche down to being an executive coach because you're limiting yourself. And it's like, well, let's put that in perspective. How many executives are there in the world? Ultimately, that's quite a few people for you to reach out to and connect with. And the same with coaches and speakers, or whether it's people that have got confidence challenges, or if it's men or women of a certain age, or whether it's children. It doesn't matter. That you're not excluding other people. You're actually making it far easier for people to find you and work with you.
Yeah, right. Some very successful coaches I know niche down to things like working with C-suite executives or C-suite women, or niche down to working specifically with engineers, which is a niche that I've even looked at myself. people who have niched down to working with people who are Mac users into rock climbing and things like that. It's like you can actually niche down in ways that help you to also work with the kind of people who you probably work best with and are going to get on with as well. And I think that's a big thing that can make a huge difference for people in the business.
Absolutely. And I think it helps you. I remember somebody saying to me, you want to find a niche that's about an inch wide but a mile deep.
Right.
And I think that's the thing. If you're going to those rock climbers, or the rock climbers who go they're outdoor or indoor, or they go certain height, then actually that's a great bunch of people, because you're going to get well known within that realm. And that becomes your solid base of marketing. And it just makes it easier then to speak their language, and they'll resonate with you far quicker.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to niching, in my experience of working with people, it has to go one of two ways. Either you niche a specific group of people who you target to work with, or you have a very specific niched problem that you solve. It really does need to be one or the other. It can be both, but certainly that is the way you need to be thinking about niching down, because I think if you have a very specific product for people, it's going to start to automatically select who it's right for and who it's not anyway, and speak to the people who have that specific problem. But like when you talk about, what was an answer I got the other day for who do you help? I help people who are stuck in life. Now, there's nothing wrong with that answer, and it's like, oh great, that's what most coaches do. I didn't want to get too deep into that conversation because it was just a casual chat. But the whole thing is, okay, is there a specific group of people? No, anyone who's feeling, and specifically people who feel really stuck in their lives who I can help. Like, okay, that could be anyone. And it's like, it's great. But this is maybe the other thing with coaches particularly, is wanting to help everybody and not wanting anyone to feel excluded.
Yeah, and I do think that's across the industries of any kind of helping side of things, really, whether it's any kind of therapy, so even massage and things like that. And it just doesn't help pre-qualify the other person, because really and truly, when you're talking to somebody, whether it's they're reading your literature or whether they're looking at your website or whatever it is, you want people to be able to go, hell yes or hell no, basically. If you get too many people stuck in that middle ground, then you've got to work harder to get them into one of those camps. And you do want people to pre-select of, no, that's not the right person for me, or yes, that is the right person for me, or oh, I'm curious, I want to know more, because that makes it easier. You want to make it easier for your clients, your customers, whoever they may be. And equally, you want to make it easier for yourself, because if you've got to keep educating people and keep going through an intensive qualifying process, then you can end up with clients that basically, it's like you were saying earlier, you want to be working with clients that you really enjoy working with in whatever capacity that looks like for you. And actually niching down helps you to do that. The moment I have a client session and I'm like, yeah, more clients like that, then that's what I ask for. And I'm very clear on what is it that encapsulates that kind of person, and keep narrowing it down so that I know where to just say, that's the kind of person I work with, and here's why, here's the reasons behind it, and what that niche is.
Yeah, I think you also have to think about it from the perspective of being your own customer or client, and think about, well, what are they hearing? What's the message they get from them? If you have a choice, let's say you have a medical problem and you have I'm trying to think of something that's a medical problem. You have an ear infection, right? So let's say you have an ear infection and it gets a bit worse and you're having some real problems. And so you go to a doctor and the doctor says, okay, well, you can either stay with me or I can send you to work with a specialist. Who are you going to choose?
Exactly.
Are you going to choose? No, I'll stay with you, who kind of works in generally every area, or I'll go and work with someone who's specialized in working with ear infections or ear, nose and throat doctor, I guess. So yeah, I think I'm going to choose the specialist. it's pretty much the same in all parts of life. If you have the choice between working with someone who's specialized or someone who's generalized, you're more likely to go for that person who's specialized. Even if they're not actually necessarily specialized in exactly what you do, you can go and I work with like my marketing coach, for example, is really a coach for business coaches. And even though I'm not really a business coach, I'm a presentation skills and influence and persuasion coach. I can still work with him. And I still go to him because he's one of the best people at what he does. And he's really differentiated himself in the market. So it's like, okay, well, that's how we should be thinking about things in terms of where we position ourselves in the market and our marketing messages to people. Because when you have them and you can start connecting with those people, you can also start to get a good sense of what messages are going to hit, what are the specific problems you find in that area with those people that you can target as well.
It also helps you hone your skills down as well. You know, interestingly enough, I was thinking about it from a medical perspective as I was walking into the office. And it's that, yes, you might go to the generalist, the GP, to get an overall view. But the moment that there's something, as you know, I was quite ill a few years ago, but the moment there's an area and they go, okay, well, that's the area. Well, of course, you immediately want to go down the route of the specialists. And be talking to those specialists, and that helps you understand and get a fine-tuning of that particular thing, whether it be about marketing, whether it be about accountants, whether it doesn't matter what it is, but it's a far more resourceful way for you to be. And again, it goes back to the restaurant thing. You know, it's hard to go to a restaurant and you've got a map that's that big. There's so much psychological research that shows, and there is a technical term which I've forgotten, for the overwhelm that's created when you've got too much choice. And when there's too much choice, it's just like, well, I won't bother then. You kind of end up doing that, and then the food it's okay. It's
if you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory in the US, it's just like that.
Right. No, I haven't.
I think I went. Yeah, we went on my honeymoon. We went in Los Angeles to the Cheesecake Factory because I really wanted to take our tour there, and it took us at least a half an hour, if not longer, to decide what we were actually going to eat. And it just ended up having to self-eliminate stuff. So, okay, let's just keep it in this area. And
well, I have to say, when being a vegetarian, it was far easier for me to open up those meals and just go, right, well, okay, I can just hone in on that, and I just ignore all the other noise, like the background noise here.
It's like truck reversing.
It is a truck reversing. We have got truck reversing. You've got the. It makes it far easier then to make my choice, because otherwise I'm just in that place of overwhelm, and you don't want to be doing that with your clients. You don't want to, or potential clients, you don't want your marketing to put them in that place of overwhelm, because if they do, then they're just going to walk away rather than going into that hell yes or hell no kind of clear way. They're in that muddy water, and that's just not helpful.
Exactly. And so if anyone's watching, listening in, who's not currently niching or struggling with this idea of niching, reverse your truck up and have a rethink on this, because it's such an important area. We're going to start to wrap things up, Jules. I know I wasn't going to keep you too long with this, but I think we've actually covered a lot of ground in a very short space of time. If somebody wants to work with you, like discussing their niche or coming and getting some work on their confidence levels, how can they do that?
Easiest way is just go straight to my website, which is juleswyman.com, and all the social medias and everything are on there. So it just makes it nice and easier for people to do it in that way. And then they can reach out, or if they want to email me direct, jules@juleswyman.com, makes it nice and easy as well.
That's cool. I highly encourage people to come and connect with you. And I know I always enjoy sending clients who aren't quite a right fit for me your way, because I know that you're one of the best coaches out there. I'm reaching out to a lot of people on Clubhouse at the moment. For those of you who are on there, if you want to connect with me, I don't know how long I'll be on there for, because it's a weird platform and I'm still figuring out whether I even want to be there or not. But if you want to come and connect with me at Johnny Ball, come and find me on Clubhouse. Look out for a live presentation coming up on the 6th of February. It's going to be in the morning. I'm promising no sales, but it's going to be all about virtual presentations, delivering kick-ass virtual presentations. God, I'm tongue-tied this morning. If you are watching on YouTube, please give us us a like and subscribe. Make sure that you hit that bell button as well, so that you get notified of all upcoming videos. Big, huge thank you to Jules Wyman for joining us this morning. What a special treat. Hopefully we can get Jules back in the future. But thank you for coming and watching the Daily Present.
Take care, Johnny.
And you.